I'm just going to, like I say, I'm going to introduce you to Kelly Lorencz. I've been really anxiously anticipating and waiting to have this conversation with Kelly. He seems like an excellent, upstanding gentleman that stepped into that role for the PPC out there in that Calgary nose hill riding. He's going to challenge Michelle Rempel and show what a real conservative stands for, right? So I'm just going to let Kelly take over right now, introduce himself, give him some background, and I'm going to share out the links to this video to all the other social media pages. So go ahead there, Kelly.
Absolutely. Well, hey, everybody. So yeah, a little bit about my background. I'm a veteran, ex-Special Service Force. I just finished 10 years in federal corrections, working maximum security, medium and minimum security. Within federal corrections, I'm also a crisis negotiator. And, you know, yeah, we're taking on Michelle, but like everybody else, we're putting up a great fight here, and everybody hears the response that we're getting from everybody in the area is just phenomenal. Oh, is that me or you?
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh. So yeah, I mean, like a lot of the candidates in the area, or even with the party, most of us have real life experience. So of course, like I said, I've got my background understanding gangs, understanding firearms issues, understanding the opioid crisis, understanding, you know, the social programs issues that we're currently faced in the country, and how I personally believe we've moved away from family and family values and being able to take care of each other. So that's pretty much where I'm going. This is what motivates me in order to be able to do this. And like I say, it's been pretty exciting.
Well, I just in response, especially and in particular to your family values things, that actually is something that's important when people say, well, how do we shrink the size and scope of government, right? Well, I guess you could show up every 4 or 5 years and hope that that's going to do it. Or you can basically do what people in the past understood historically. Because like I say, this is nothing is new under the sun, folks. This stuff's been tried and tested before. So if you want to reduce the size and scope of government, right, then you have to make personal responsibility and create an era and an atmosphere, depending on the particular geographical area that you live in, where you're actually sustaining each other through the voluntary means, which so religion, Christianity has played a role in that, you know, promoting these family values that Kelly's referenced. If you, like I say, when people say, oh, well, who will take care of whatever, right? So healthcare, any kind of initiative that you use government as an ultimate means to an end. Well, what it is you lead by example. And I was talking about this with Kelly before we went live, is if you lead by example and you step up the plate and do what's needed and necessary to help those people who are desperate or in need, well, then there's no longer a need or a necessity to ask some third-party arbiter, namely government or politicians, to intervene in that particular activity. What, like I say, whether it's economic or social in scope. That's where we can reduce the size and scope of government, is personal responsibility. And if we hold each other to account, then we don't have to use government for anything more than actually is deemed required. Now, personally, I'd say there's other areas that we can even get beyond government. But even if we go back to the most fundamental principles of what government truly entails, which is to defend people from foreign aggressors, right? So you have a military and you have a force to protect your particular geographical area for foreign invaders or foreign aggressors, or to arbitrate disputes. Now, if we want to keep government limited in scope to that point, then we have to step up the plate and take and assume that task, that role of responsibility on each and every one of us to hold each other to account, to help our fellow man and woman when they're in desperate need of help. Then we don't have the rampant growth in state because it's no longer needed or necessary. That, to me, and that way you do it in a voluntary means. There's no need for a violent revolution, right? To me, that's the proper way to go about things. That's why I put up, even right now, in the age of information, ignorance is a choice. What it is today is you've been taught a lot of things that have been misrepresented because people that want to use, force as an ultimate means to an end. What I'm saying, what Kelly's representing is force, and as a military man, I'm sure Kelly understands this too, is force should always be restrained and only used in defense, right? And not something as sheer offense. And to me, that's what I want to do as a libertarian. I'm all about using, force as a means to defend myself. But at the same time, I want to promote voluntary interactions, whether it's on the social sphere or on the economic sphere. That way, like I say, we don't have to constantly fight, argue, bicker, and barter and banter back and forth about how big or small government would be. If we take care of business on our own, well, government will be as small as needed and necessary. So once again, without the personal responsibility, you're never going to get or attain that kind of success as far as shrinking the size and scope of government. That's what the PPC is here to do. That's what Kelly's probably going to, I would imagine, I'm not going to put words in his mouth. I'm sure Kelly is probably on board with that same kind of messaging. Are you, Kelly? Or?
Oh, absolutely. A smaller government is better for the people. It allows the people to take care of their own. Right. People, we talked about it at the beginning prior to going live. Everybody's sitting here complaining about this, that, or the other. But if you're not prepared to jump into the fight and get your hands dirty and volunteer, or like a lot of the candidates are doing for the People's Party, they're getting involved. I got involved because I'm tired of, like I've always said, picking the lesser of the two evils. Now I don't have to. But if I didn't get involved, then I've got no room to complain. Right. And that's where we need to stop. We've moved away from the family values. We've stopped taking care of each other. And we need to get back to that. I mean, that falls in line even with our seniors, Right. One of the examples that I like to tell people is a senior that I cared for. She was an elderly lady. She was 84 years old. Met her through some friends of the family. Had no family, had no nothing, and so brought her into my home. We cared for her. She was an only child of an only child who was from England, and we brought her into the home. We cared for her, until she passed away. But that was about loving another human being. Exactly. And we've so moved away from that.
Yep. Well, that's what I agree 100%, because to me, that's the thing. And I've said this in my past videos too. We all come into this earth reliant on everyone around us, because you're vulnerable. That's the state that you come into this world. Whether you want to say that's just a natural evolutionary phase, or whether you're a believer in God, or no matter how you look at it, is you go out of this world in the same position, reliant on everyone around you. So historically, absent big government, historically, even if you didn't necessarily, like, whether you're the son or the parent or the daughter or the parent or the grandparent, every one of you in that entire familial process understood that, yes, when the people are young and vulnerable, you take care of them. But on the other side of that equation, what kept family ties and values at front and center, whether you liked it or not, was the sheer fact that your parents took care of you in your vulnerable situation when you were desperate and you needed that. Otherwise, you would never survive. And on the other side of that is that reciprocal effect. So when your parents are getting old and frail and later in those years where they need that kind of assistance, like you did when you were a child, well, that was that reciprocal effect. So you understood. It was that relation that kept us, even if we fought and we had disagreements and arguments, which every family is going to have. That's just normal. That's just as normal as living and breathing. But on the other side of it, what kept us close and tightly binded to each other was the fact that we always understood that we're going to always require to rely on each other. And if we kept that, well, then we didn't need government. And you know what? Tell you the truth, in reality, some politician far removed in Ottawa is not going to have near the capacity to know what the needs or the necessities, or have that same kind of care, compassion, and love that a family would bring to the equation. So to me, like I say, we got to get back, and this is something I agree with Kelly fundamentally. And actually, because I promote those kind of family values, that's something very important to me, obviously. That is a great way to shrink the size and scope of government and this kind of top-down authoritarianism. Let's pick up the mantle of that personal responsibility and take care of each other. If we're taking care of each other, like I say, we don't have to there's not much really that has to take place other than that personal responsibility and assuming the task and that role of taking care of each other. If we're doing that, government will shrink just by natural extension of that responsible roles that we're taking.
But if you look at the direction that we're going right now, for example, Bill C-16, taking away parental rights.
Right.
You look at BC, what's happening right now with
Mm.
the child can get doctor's treatment without the parents' knowledge. You look up in Alberta here in Edmonton, where a single father who put an ad on Kijiji looking for somebody to babysit his children, simply asked the question, are you a male or female and how old are you? And now he's going in front of the Human Rights Tribunal. Then you take it one step further and you look at Bill 89 in Ontario that clearly stated that if a parent does not want to address their child by the appropriate pronoun, then the government can come in and remove that child from that home. So, people. I said this yesterday on a panel, a PPC panel that we had, that people just need to simply educate themselves. Look at the platforms, or look at the bills or the laws that are being passed right now, and you'll see that this is slowly, systematically being taken away from us. Now, I remember when I had my first daughter. It was young, obviously, and it's a scary thing. But you talk to my daughters now who are much older, who are looking to have children, and I get, Dad, you know what? I don't know if I can afford to bring in children into the world. I don't know, I don't know what's going to happen. And that kind of fear that's affecting family now in Canada.
Yeah, it's a shame, because they are being and the craziest part about this whole pretense of I'm scared to bring children in, and I've even heard some people from my younger kids or from my sons, like, that are friends of theirs, and they say that same basic premise is like, if you understood history, actually, yes, things aren't perfect, things aren't ideal, but if I think about through all times of history, there was never, if you wait for the most ideal time to have children, where there was no possible scenario where they ever have anything that might possibly harm them, well, you'd never had, well, the entire human race would have ceased to exist long ago. Actually, yeah. It's weird to hear the younger people talk about this stuff today, considering all they have at their disposal. You really, are you seriously telling me that in Canada, this country, like I say, that I live in, the real world, because I live here, are you really saying you're so worried that your children will be dying on the streets if you have a child today in Canada? Really? Like, this tells me somebody's been failing you. Somebody's been failing you in your life if you've grown up and you got to the point where you're scared to have children because you think that there's just too many potential dangers or threat to them that it's just an impossible thing to do. So that's a weird mentality. What do you think on that, Kelly?
Well, it's a double-edged sword, because if you look at the government right now, the government is taxing us, carbon taxes and all of these things that are making life more expensive. So why wouldn't the younger generations be going, you know what, I don't know if I can afford to bring a child into this? And then you have the double-edged sword, and where the government is then turning it around and going, well, we have a shrinking population, and we need to bring more people into the country so we can increase our population. But
such a contradiction.
It's a contradiction. If you reduce the taxes and make life more affordable for Canadians, give them more money in their pocket, you're going to see that population growth. It's just a natural occurrence, right? Yep. Because now our younger generation aren't afraid to whether or not they're going to be able to put food on the table. 16.3% of my riding are single parents. And I cannot imagine how difficult it must be with the amount of taxation on them, how they get along. I mean, I remember for myself as a young lad that I grew up with a single mom, and we never went without, but I also knew that my mom worked very, very hard. And that's no different nowadays. As a matter of fact, single parents are having to work harder to provide for their children. We talk, and that sort of all transitions into one another, right? You look at the gang issues and stuff like that. Having talked to gangs, well, I never had any sort of forum to be able to participate, to feel like I belong to something. Well, a lot of these gang members had single parent families where they were trying to just get by, and they wanted to belong, that sense of belonging, right? So it's all part and parcel. It all sort of works together, but it comes down to, like you said, in this day and age of information, they should be they should be informing themselves and understanding what exactly they're voting for.
Yeah. Well, what I look at, like I said, to me, whatever your political background or your ideological background, all that stuff, to me, what just kind of irks me is the fact that we do live in the age of information. And to me, it's like I waited my entire life. Like I said in the past videos, as a child, it took my parents, both of them working in two full-time jobs and for a substantial period of time before they could even afford to buy such thing as encyclopedias. I'm sure I don't know if your parents had them, but back when I was growing up, it was a couple $1,000s at least, and a couple $1,000s in, let's say in the 80s or the late 70s, that was an expensive proposition for a lot of people that were just considered like you're working poor. But at least even back then, they understood, well, if we want to educate and inform the people, our children, then we had to give them access to as much or a breadth of information as we possibly can, because we understood, religion can teach you some great morals and ethics, but there are other areas of life where you need to get knowledge and gain knowledge as well. But what I recognize today is we've actually achieved and attained a point in human existence which most people aren't taking advantage of because we're living in the here and now. So it's like, well, of course this is
right.
It is. But if you were someone like an alien that just dropped onto this planet today and realized that you went from a point of just pure obscurity where only a very minority of the people had access to the breadth of human knowledge to almost instantaneous, almost overnight, the entire globe, or at least a couple billion of us, have access to the breadth of all of human knowledge. To me, it's going to take time. I've been spending a lot of time, at least a good 10 or 12 years, trying to get myself up to speed and adopt some of the knowledges that are built and based upon a lot of geniuses through the past that have worked through a lot of decades, a lot of eras to get us up to speed to think about these issues critically. And what disturbs me the most is the media class and the ruling class, the people that are supposed to be your thought leaders or the ones that play some central role as being an authority or an expert in your life. They're failing the people tremendously. That's why I, and a lot of people, I'm sure you've done so, why I felt there's a void, there's a vacuum, and I felt I got to step up the plate and try to fill that as best I can. Now, I've been trying to inform myself along the way, so I'm still a work in progress, and I expect I'll probably be put down by the time I'm taking my last breath, I'll still never grasp or attain the kind of breadth of knowledge that I would hope to achieve. But as I'm progressing along that way, I feel a need and a necessity to share this knowledge with other people, because I know how important it's not just to make me, it has caused me to have a much better relationship with my own family, to have me to have a much better mindset and how I deal with things and think about issues critically. And to me, I can't help but think the best thing I can do for people is not going to show up every once in a few years to check a box off. Although I will do that if it's one more thing that I need to do to help get my Canadian people on that part where we're heading down that path of liberty. But the best thing I can do, the best thing that Kelly can do, the best thing that we all can do is take advantage of the fact that we live in the age of information. Get ourselves up to speed. Just learn some of the cold hard truths that have escaped us for most of our life. And it's not that we were dumb or ignorant or stupid. What it is, most of the time people didn't present these kind of facts to us, and it might have been their particular failures, but you know what, once again, personal responsibility. Someone might have failed me in the past, but rather than me playing the victim mentality or the victim card, I'm going to say, you know what, I don't have to play the victim anymore. I live in the age of information. I have the competence and I have the capability to look up things and learn for myself. That's what we should all be doing. If we're doing that, and I'm sure Kelly would agree, then we will, once again, that's another way to put the people on a better path. So if they are going to show up and vote, then they're going to be voting with clarity of mind. If they have clarity of mind, then I would trust, because I think most people are at least reasonable in their approach. And I would trust a person that's going to show up and check a box up every few years, and at least if they've properly informed themselves.
Well, and that's exactly it. I mean, like I said yesterday, with information comes power.
Yeah.
And, the more that people inform themselves, the better, the more powerful society will be. I informed myself. I looked at Bill C-16. I looked at the Bill 9 in Ontario. I've looked at what's going on in BC, up in Edmonton, and that comes down to accountability and responsibility, especially by your governments.
Right.
And when you have a government that's voting in these kinds of, well, the only way I know how to put it is these kinds of oppressions on family, I really believe that the Bill C-16 needs to be amended to reflect the family values. I really believe if it's, at the very least be amended. With any luck, it could be repealed and rewritten in that's respecting the family values. Now, I'm not suggesting that parents don't have to recognize their children's chosen gender identity. I mean, but at the end of the day, you have to be 18 years old to get a tattoo. You have to have your parents' signature to get a tattoo. I really think that you need to have these discussions with your parents. As scary as it, and it is scary for a lot of kids to have this discussion with their parents. I understand that.
Yeah.
But the government shouldn't be stepping in to make that decision for you.
Definitely.
Right. So I think that as a I think we should, like I said, at the very least, repeal or amend that Bill C-16, and you have to take a hard look at who actually voted this in.
Yeah.
A lot of the conservative members of Parliament voted in favor of Bill C-16.
Yep.
So it's a dangerous and slippery slope.
It is, and it's something that I'm not a fan of at all. Especially not the compelled speech part of that. But I just want to mention right now that Leo, I'm sure because you guys have talked before in the past anyway. So Kelly, yeah. Leo's asking, what will the PPC do with these types of family diluting bills? Will the PPC repeal them? That's actually a good question. And I'll just, before you even answer it, I'll even say I think one of the great initiatives that Trump started actually when he became president is because you do have like tens of thousands. That's a problem with every time a lobbying group. So you introduce a bill or a piece of an act of legislation, then somehow somebody finds a way that's not right. So they create another secondary bill to counteract that bill. Then you get multiple layers. So basically you get like 20 bills that counteract and are complete contradictions to each other. So I think what Trump did as far as initiative, and I think the PPC, this should be a good initiative that they might want to support, and maybe you'll agree as well, is for every if you want to introduce new rules or regulations or acts of legislation, then repeal them with all that redundancy, all those layers of bureaucracy that really the only thing they ever do is enriching lawyers as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And if you've read any of these documents, they're long and they're very, very wordy. Like I pulled up Bill 9 or 8, the one in Ontario, Bill 89, with regards to that, and it's 185 pages long. And it's a whole lot of verbal diarrhea. There's really, they put a whole lot of information in there, so people just sort of glean over it and they don't pay attention to what's actually being said. We need to simplify things and make things a little bit more understandable. When it's understandable and there's clarity, there's no challenges, in the courts. It's very, very clear.
Yeah.
Judges have an easier time making decisions based off of the clarity. They're not having to interpret what this government is trying to say. So will we repeal it? I can't say that we would repeal it. I know that I would be probably one of the members that would put forward something that would actually look to amend it. If you've read it, there is some value in Bill C-16, but it needs to be amended in order to reflect parents' rights as well.
Right. I kind of get what you're saying, but to me, that's the thing. If you've already enshrined, which I mean, our Constitution isn't even genuinely our Constitution. It's basically it's the adopted redheaded stepchild of the British monarchy, basically. But I mean, even if you want to go with that pretense, to me, that's what I mean. And it comes down to this redundancy. I don't think there should be any such thing as LGBTQ rights, minority rights, female rights. It's human rights. Like so it's just if you by natural extension meet the requirement that what it is to be human, right, who cares about the other underlying superficial aspects of what that is? Is you just have rights that pertain to all humans, right?
Go ahead. That's exactly it. No, that's fine. That's exactly it. I mean, as a member, of Parliament, I don't care if you're lesbian. I don't care if you're gay. As far as I'm concerned, if you're Canadian and you're in a lesbian relationship or gay relationship, and you're raising children and you're happy, then I don't care. It's about having Canadians being happy, and we're all Canadian. There's no what I call creating silos, right? Individual groups of people that we pit each other against each other, and then we end up with what we're doing now. We're fighting amongst groups, and instead of recognizing the fact that we're Canadian.
Yeah. Oh, actually,
and that's the biggest problem right now.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to bring this into the equation too, because a lot of people don't seem to understand this in Canada. Because I hear this from people all the time, especially when I hear it from adults. It's like, really? Damn, I'm sorry that you haven't taken 1 minute out of your time apparently to think about this issue critically. But I'm going to help you in that regard right now, and I've done this to people many times. Is when you're talking about rights in particular. Now, I use the term human rights, but that already has a negative connotation because of the Human Rights Tribunal. Once again, these kangaroo courts. But when I talk about human rights, I'm just talking about classical, liberal, libertarian, individual rights. Respect each other's sovereignty as individuals. That's what I mean. So just doesn't matter what other describing factors you use for yourself. Like I say, it doesn't matter your skin color, your race, your gender, or your religion. Just, are you human? Are you an individual? That's right. And once again, when we talk about rights, and I'm saddened to see a lot of people that were not just raised and educated historically in the past in our education system, but even some of the young people today, they don't seem to understand the difference between what rights represent. Now, to me, a right, when you're talking about rights, as it pertains to governance, is a right is always negative. A positive right is to suggest that now people say, like, I have a right to healthcare. Well, that is a positive right. And that's an impossibility. Unless you promote slavery, because to have, an actual positive right, like for me to say I have a right to healthcare. Well, that's basically to say that I have the right to force a doctor, right, to provide some service to me. Now, I would hope that a doctor is obviously, not just competent, but has the morality to do so. And I would hope that to be. And I think most doctors to go into that particular field of work do have that kind of compassion as part of who they are. But once again, I don't have a right to force someone to provide me with a service. A natural right, a human right, an individual right that's been understood historically for at least 200 years, but you can go back, actually I can stretch it all the way back to 1,000 years, all the way back to Aristotle that understood this. But a natural, genuine right is negative in effect. So my right is to be free from. So my rights are to be free from force, coercion, theft, right? I want to be free from other people imposing their will, their mandates, or their edicts on me. That's what a proper right represents. When I hear people out there today, whether they're from the right side or the left side, whether they're talking about economics or social policy, is no, there is no such thing as a positive right. You don't have a right to anyone else's service or anything that they can provide or their paycheck.
Yeah, no, and you know what? I would agree. And I just sort of
hashtag taxation.
What's that?
No, I said hashtag taxation is theft. I'm a libertarian, man. I don't believe.
Yeah, there you go. I look at it sort of. I look at it from a veteran's point of view. So we're all society. We're all living together. Our veterans put through an awful lot together, and at the end of the day. And for whatever reason, certain groups want a full month to celebrate whatever they want to celebrate. But then you look at veterans get half a day. These are people that sacrifice their lives, to give us the freedoms that we have now, which is great. Express what you want to express. That's your right to express it.
Right.
But you can't limit me to express what I feel is the same. It may be different, but that's what makes us unique. It doesn't matter that we have different points of view. It's your right to have your point of view. It's my right to have my point of view. That doesn't mean that we have to agree on everything. But that's what it means to be Canadian.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's just to me, and I mean, we could go on and on and on about the, all of these things, and at the end of the day, it boils down to it's just more and more government getting involved in the home,
Yeah.
and the government at the end of the day needs to get out of the home.
Yes, I agree 100%.
So
Yeah, I want separation of the state and the family 100%. As a matter of fact, I want separation of the state in economics. I want separation state. Actually, I want separation of state from everything. Other than, like I said, as a libertarian, I'm willing to allow this mystical entity to be the pretense. Although, once again, I get that some people want it to be as the means as our ultimate means of defense for foreign aggressors. And you know what? I'll side with those of you that believe that's needed and necessary. Although, like I've said so many times in the past, if anyone steps foot on my particular piece of soil, whether I'm in New Brunswick or Ontario, as a foreign aggressor, matter of fact, I don't feel a need or a necessity to join government to defend my country. But I get that is part and parcel of the country that we live in, and I understand that. But to me, I kind of like, to be honest with you, I always loved the founding fathers of the U.S. model as far as having a stand-in militia, because really what you require at the end of the day is people that have the competence, willingness, and the training to defend themselves against foreign aggressors. Really, so government military takes the proper equation out of that, whereas now you're not just using the military, the men and women in our military, as you know. Now you're not just using them to defend Canada. I mean, especially when some of the colonial expansion in the past under the monarchy and stuff, well, you're using that to invade or go into foreign countries and dictate how their people are controlled. So to me, I'm not into that kind of foreign aggression, but as a means to, as defense, like I say, and I'd be willing, I've said this in the past too, if we're going to have a stand-in military or a militia, to me, it's like, okay, you decide that. I would always be willing to actively volunteer a portion of my income to make sure we have, like I say, whether it's a militia or a stand-in army, a way to defend our country from foreign aggressors, because that's just a reality. And to pretend otherwise that you don't need a military to defend yourself, that's just foolish, like I say. But to me, it's semantics at the end of the day. Really what it comes down to is we need people that have the capacity, the willingness, the training, and the competence to defend people against foreign aggressors. And I would always support that. The problem is today under the big government initiative is, and most of the men and women from the military should understand this, is they promise you the world, but at the end of the day, they'll sacrifice you at the altar of their form of statism. So whether it's the liberals today, I mean, how many insulting remarks have you heard from Trudeau towards the men and women of the military? So to me, it's like, don't defend the state or those who are representatives of the state. Defend your country. That's why when I hear people try to separate the difference between a patriot or someone that's the status is, yes, let's get away from this kind of weird thing where we're functioning on this state thing. No, what it is we're defending our fellow citizens. And that's something I definitely get behind. And I know that I would support Kelly 100%. And most of the men and women in the military today or in the past, I would have supported all those amazing people. The problem is by my funds being siphoned through a big government initiative, how much of that actually gets to the men and women that are actually doing the defending of the country? I don't know. And there's no way for me to hold any of these people to account. So as much as it might sound to some people when I talk about how I'm not a big fan of big government military, it has nothing to do with the men and women that actually genuinely want to defend this country. I love each and every one of those people. To me, it's look at how many of these, well, I mean, how many of them are laying in the streets today, in the gutters, barely sustain themselves. And the government made this big promise that, if you just go do this for us, don't worry, we'll take care of you from cradle to grave. Well, that promise was broken, and we've seen that time and time again. So to me, it's like, stop relying on government as your means to an end and appeal to the Canadian people. Because like I say, blockchain, we could even pay the military without government taking our funds. If you want to have a military, hey, we have blockchain technology today that we could support the men and women in the military. We would all have the ability to enter into these contracts voluntarily and hold everyone to account. So to me, we don't have to do anything other than, it's all about accounting predominantly, folks. It's not about trying to change your mentality. Yes, we need people to defend the country, but really at the end of the day, it's about accounting and accountability.
Yeah, but who I look at it sort of a more of a broader point of view. Yes, we have our military protecting our country. But when we're in country, it's up to every Canadian citizen to defend and fight for this country,
Exactly.
and it's coming down to that, unfortunately. You and I talked prior about the ridiculous vote splitting argument.
Oh,
So I wanted to talk to you, about that a little bit.
Yep.
So, we get that on occasion. So I'm wondering, I'm going to ask you, can we agree that when you're splitting anything, it has to be comparable?
Right.
Okay, so if we can agree that it's comparable, then looking at the People's Party of Canada's platform and you're looking at the Conservative Party platform, is it comparable? It really isn't. It's apples and oranges. So there's no vote splitting there between the People's Party and the Conservative Party. There's nothing. No. So when you look at when you compare the Liberal Party of Canada and the Conservative Party of Canada's platforms, now you're having, apples to apples. Okay, it might be a little bit different of an apple, but at the end of the day, you've got the same type of fruit and you're going to end up with the same result.
Yeah.
So, who's actually splitting what vote? Well, the Liberals and the Conservatives are splitting that vote because the Conservative Party of Canada is trying to pull some of that vote over because they can't win any other way.
Yeah.
So that's, for me, that's the easiest way to explain it.
Yeah. And actually that split I agree 100%. Actually, the only genuine split is, do you want based on that LibCon duopoly, right? Do you want authoritarian mommy or authoritarian daddy? I've said this in my past videos. Which one do you want? PPC people are saying, we don't want neither. We want all Canadian citizens to step up the plate. And if you're an adult, show some personal responsibility. Show the fact that you respect those Western values that you were born and raised in, that gave you and afforded you all those opportunities and all those freedoms that you take advantage of. Is we're saying, well, you got to carry that forward, because if you want your kids, your grandkids, and your great grandkids, if you want them to carry that torch going forward, then you have to be once again a generation that's willing to carry that torch yourself, not offload that responsibility onto someone else. No, to pick up that mantle. That's what the PPC is doing. What they're saying. What the PPC represent to me, if you're talking about family, in comparison to society, is like I say, instead of authoritarian mom or your daddy, say, listen, you don't ever have to be personally responsible, right? So the LibCons are saying, you never have to be personally responsible. I'll take care of you from cradle to grave. The only thing that it'll require is that you kiss the ring. What the PPC is saying, what Maxime is saying is, no, whether you're talking about society or your children, I'm saying, no, you don't have to kiss my ring. You don't have to kiss mommy's ring. I just want you to be personally responsible. Once you achieved adult status, I want you to be personally responsible enough that you don't have to kiss nobody's ring. And to me, I don't even understand how any Canadian from either side of the political aisle, how can you disagree with that premise? When you raised your kids, damn well in your own personal anecdotal experience, the best example of a child that you ever raised was one that you taught to be personally responsible. If you raised one of those kids who were spoiled rotten, never had to pick up their plate or never had to do anything to take care of themselves, you're probably bitching and moaning today, and they're probably still stuck in your basement. So what the libertarians, what Maxime or what the PPC represent, damn well that's the right thing to do. But what it is, a lot of these people have irresponsible children, and they're like, I don't want them to go out into society and have to be responsible because, they might be under threat. Well, that was your failure. You failed your children. If you're scared to send them out into the real world, you failed them. Don't expect me, don't expect Kelly, don't expect anyone else to pick up the mantle and race ourselves to have to cater and coddle these people. I feel bad for them. I would never do anything to cause harm to them, but you fucked up. Don't make me responsible for your failures. And the best thing you can do, if you can't raise your kids responsibly enough, then maybe you should point them towards people like me and Kelly. And trust me, we'll teach them how to be responsible adults.
But at the end of the day, that's where our country is left at. Yeah. Right? The liberals and the conservatives have left this country in exactly that state, right? You can look at the conservatives being the dad and the liberals being the mom, and especially under Trudeau. And at the end of the day, you're pointing at the finger. It's like divorced parents. The one's pointing the finger at the other, and you never actually get anything done. And that's the problem that we're having right now. The People's Party now is coming in,
Yep.
and it's a, like Max says, it's a common sense approach.
Yeah.
And obviously common sense isn't so common anymore,
No.
especially in government.
No.
And I mean, I remember the video watching Max. I believe he was in Vancouver, and this lady was talking to him, and she said that she was Chinese Canadian. Well, no, you're Canadian. At the end of the day, you're Canadian. So I don't care what nationality you are. At the end of the day, you're Canadian. You're coming to Canada.
Yep.
To share in those values and to share in what it means to be Canadian, and that's what it's all about, right? So like I said, the vote splitting in that is it's a apples and oranges. It's not even a, it looks like looking at the media and the news right now, they're trying to split it into a different cultural issue, and it really really it's not the case. If you're Canadian and you're here to support Canadian values, then that the People's Party is the one that is going to reestablish around the world what it means to have Canadian values.
Right. Now,
and that's the problem.
Now, before I even go on any further, I just want to ask you right here now, because like I said, I know I have a tendency to kind of go off my own little tangent from time to time, but I want to ask you, Kelly, what was that? There must have been something. I'm sure there might have been a multitude of things. So just explain at your own leisure and however you want to. But there must have been something that caused you to say, I feel compelled that I've got to delve into this and step up and do. What was that precipice that pushed you over the edge? I'm just curiosity.
Well, it's interesting because you look. I used federal corrections, obviously. That's what I did for 10 years.
Right.
So with the Conservatives, especially as part of the Union for Correctional Officers, we fought the Conservatives to try and get something for our officers, wage-wise, to take care of officers as first responders, and they refused to even recognize the people that work in the prisons.
Right.
Never mind the offenders.
Right.
And then there was hope that the Liberals would be different. And as soon as Trudeau made the comment to Brock, especially as a veteran, you know right away that they're not going to do anything for corrections. I mean, perfect example of that is they have they introduced a needle exchange program within federal corrections.
No.
Really? I mean, a federal corrections facility is supposed to be a drug-free environment, and you're going to do a needle exchange.
Yeah.
Where is the logic in that? Like it makes absolutely no sense. Yeah. So when Max came out with the party, I'm a founding member of the party. I joined up right away, and we ended up talking, and I received a phone call one day from one of the EDAs saying, hey, we're having a meeting. Are you interested in coming out to hear what has to be said?
Right.
And I said, well, how do I become a candidate? Well, after that, it just steamrolled after that. And I remember getting the phone call going, how would you like to take on Michelle Rempel? And for me, it was like, yeah, let's bring it on. Nice. I like a good fight. So unfortunately, from all indications so far, Michelle's not sticking around for that fight. So she's already announced that she's going to travel across Canada helping other candidates. So rather than being here in the riding like I am, talking to the people, supporting the people, and getting the message out there, she's I don't know what she's doing, but maybe avoiding. I don't know.
She's just looking to get her paycheck at the end of the day, it seems like to me.
You know what? The cameras aren't in Calgary Nose Hill, right? So Michelle's all about the cameras, right? So wherever the cameras are, you'll see Michelle.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's all she seems to do. I mean, Michelle does a lot of talking. Well, the Conservative Party, that's all they do is talk.
Yeah.
You look at right now, all they're doing is keeping the focus on what Trudeau has done, because the Conservative, it's always that what I call the circle of abuse.
Yeah.
The liberals screw up, so we're going to vote conservative. The conservatives screw up, so we're going to vote liberals, right? And we keep going in that circle. So that's all they're used to. So right now, all they're doing, instead of giving you a platform, they're feeling entitled to this vote, and they keep reminding Canadians of what Trudeau has done. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Canadians don't need reminder.
No.
We know. So at the end of the day, it comes down to, if you want to break that cycle of abuse, well, all of a sudden now there's a party here that's really offering Canadians something of value.
Yeah.
And they're trying to keep us quiet, which won't happen.
Well, I just got to say, Kelly, what always drove me crazy my entire life, and Michelle's just one iteration, one modern example of that, is whether you're a politician or a lawyer, I repeat myself, it's someone, this is what I've recognized my whole life. It's always driven me nuts. Now, I get it's an occupation and it's a function in society, but if you're the type of person that will shift your principles on a dime, like, because that's basically what a lawyer and a politician does, right? They don't most. Right? I'm not saying there are exceptions to the rule. So once again, let me give that caveat there, because I'm not going to say every politician. Although, to tell you the truth, I wouldn't call those people politicians. A perfect example of that I would point to is Ron Paul. He ran through the political process. He was an American politician, but I would call him, and as a lot of people call him, he was a statesman. He was, to me, a politician has that connotation of basically a snake oil salesman or a lawyer, which, like I say, they would defend a pedophile, right? If you give them enough money, right? That's because that's what a lawyer's job is. If I pay you enough money, well, you'll lie through your fucking teeth to defend me. Yeah. I mean, I get it. If you're a pedophile, you're probably pretty appreciative of the fact that there's someone willing to sacrifice their soul to the devil to defend you. I'm sure for you that's working out great. But how's that work for society, right? That's what I'm seeing. Well, the more we grow the political or the lawyer class, once again, I repeat myself, is now that's why people are like, I don't know where to pivot no more. What's right or wrong? What's up or down? No wonder they don't understand, because look at who's fucking telling them how to think about things, right? People that'll go flip from one side to the other like that.
Well, and that's exactly it. I mean, Michelle is the perfect example of that. And I'm using Michelle right now, obviously, because I'm running against her.
Right.
But Michelle,
because I've watched her. You're right. You're in with your accusations toward her, and they will stick because she has misrepresented what conservative truly represents. Sorry, Kelly, I just had to interject that, man.
No, it's all good. But I mean, you look at I'm conservative values, but I'm going to vote for Bill C-16. You look at I'm going to bring up the pipeline and equalization. Michelle put on a video that, I'm supporting Albertans and I'm fighting for Albertans, and I put in I supported an e-petition to address equalization. And at the end of the day, she wasn't lying. But unfortunately, that information is public, so I pulled that information up. And yes, she did support it. In a 4-month period in the province of Alberta, she got 42 signatures. 42. 112 across the country. I could get more signatures door knocking, in Calgary, Nose Hill, and say that I'm fighting for Albertans.
Yeah.
It's just the ridiculous. I mean, and it's everything just to pander.
Yeah.
She's actively helping remove parental rights.
Yep.
She's telling Albertans that I'm fighting for you and the pipeline. I want to get Albertans back to work.
Yep.
And we all know that the Conservative Party of Canada is not going to get that pipeline built. They keep talking about an energy corridor, and that energy corridor is not, I mean, we're looking 8 to 12 years. I mean, so are they that arrogant to believe that they're going to get 2-3 terms in a row to achieve this? I mean, Max is talking about inside of a year.
Yeah.
A year tops to get this pipeline started. So, and equalization, that's a very important issue for Albertans, right? It's a sore point, and rightly so. And recalculation isn't the formula itself isn't in the Constitution.
Right.
So simply, redoing the formula, as Max has said, is simply a morning cabinet meeting, and you come up with a new formula to recalculate it that's fair for all Canadians.
Yeah.
And that includes Albertans.
Yeah, and actually, I think that reformulation of the equalization payments would do the same thing if I was a parent and I was raising some irresponsible kids that just wanted to rest on my paycheck. At some point in time, I'd be like, listen, I'm not doing anything good for myself. As a matter of fact, I'm seeing my bottom line being depleted, right? But at the same time, in addition to that, not only is my bottom line being depleted, but I'm seeing that the person that's the recipient, now I would say my child, but in this case, Quebec, where you're failing them psychologically, philosophically. You're failing them on so many levels by just offering a constant handout and handout. To me, that's not the proper way to help. Like I say, whether you're talking about your family structure or your societal structure, if you want to help the people in Quebec, and I was reading today about there's 120,000 positions in Quebec because Judd Sing's out there doing his whole let's bring in more temporary foreign workers, more mass immigration, and he's trying to cater to the Quebec population. Say, oh, there's 120,000 positions that are going unfilled in Quebec. Well, are you telling me there's not 120,000 Quebecers that can fill those positions? Are you really going to stand there and look at the fucking eye and tell me there's not one person in all of Quebec, of the millions of people in that province, that can fill these positions? And I'll just tell you, no, it's an incentive failure, right? Because I guarantee you, if you incentivize the domestic population, now it's unfortunate, I'll admit to the ruling class and the economic class in this country, while you spent too much time playing the Ponzi game, so you've created, so the barriers to entry is very difficult and it's very high. But you know what? You are the ones, and through government fiat currencies and constantly manipulating the valuation of people's labor and what they provide to society, now these people have to ask for exorbitant amounts, right? So let's say in Quebec, a typical Quebecer says, well, I require or I deem $15 an hour to do a job that really should only require maybe $9 or $10 worth of productivity. Well, it's an unfortunate thing, and that's a terrible math equation to do because you're paying people in excess than what they're actually worth. But you know what? They didn't create that scenario. It was central banks, central governments, and all this manipulation of the currency that's created this devaluation of everyone's labor so that now we have to bid up to these ridiculous levels. Like I said, the people in Quebec didn't create that scenario, but they will, like I say, because they have to function under that scenario and because the cost of all the food that they have to consume, the housing, right, the gas in their car, the diesel in their trucks, because of the cost reflection on that, they might require or deem a much higher compensation for their economic prosperity. Well, that's a failure of the people in the past. They wouldn't require that much if you didn't artificially stimulate the economy, where there was a lot of needless waste of productivity, where now a lot of the labor resources are so devalued that people have to bid up into these stratospheric levels. To me, that's a wrong way to do about it. That's why, to me, we should have stuck with free market fundamentals in terms of economics. Then you could use proper incentives. Like I know in the 80s, I went to work even as a teenager. Why? Because you could offer someone enough compensation, economic reward, even when I was still like in my teens and like, man, I don't want to go work. But hey, I could at least make out an economic benefit that seems sustainable so that I could, in my teens, I could have had an apartment, I could have had a car, I could have insured. Now, the cost of all those things for especially the younger people, no wonder they don't want to enter into this, because basically what's being offered to them is like, I'm still going to have to live with 3 or 4 other people just to put a roof over my head. It's an incentive structure problem. It's not a matter of there aren't people in Canada that can fill these positions. It's the incentive structure has been broken down.
Well, and you have to look at it, 130,000 jobs in Quebec that are available. Okay. Yeah. What's the unemployment in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and that because the pipeline and the oil field's not up and running. Even further than that, how many people from Quebec came to Alberta to enjoy the Alberta boom?
Exactly.
Right? Why? Because they were getting compensated for the work that they were doing.
Exactly.
So it's not about bringing in more people. It's about bringing the people in across the country and reducing the employment across the country to help Canadians, get Canadians back to work. Right. And it doesn't matter. Canadians are willing to go anywhere they need to go.
And they will.
Wherever the work is.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, when things are booming.
Whole life.
Well, and so have I.
Yeah.
I mean, we have veterans that are homeless. They're living on the streets, and would probably enjoy, a good paying job or some help doing that.
Yep.
So there's got to be incentives there. I mean, I was in a project a couple days ago in Calgary called Homes for Heroes.
Nice.
It's the same sort of idea. Get them off of the streets, give them something to look forward to, and it's about incentive, right? About helping Canadians first.
Yep.
We're not saying don't bring in foreign workers. We're not saying that, because they're contributing to Canada's economy. But we also have to take care of Canadians, and Canadians are willing to go wherever the work is. We've already shown that.
Right. Exactly. No, I agree 100%. I'm just going through the chats there just to see what everyone's
here.
But you go ahead, Kelly. If there's anything else you wanted to bring up, man, dig right in, because like I say, you don't have to rely on. I'll always interject, but I just kind of want you to take control of the conversation today, because like I say, I have a lot of respect for people like you that have stepped up the plate and have said, you know what, I'm going to delve into this stupid political fray. But why? Because I care about my country, and I care about the freedoms that we were supposed to, right? That's the whole premise of the West. We're supposed to care about these things, and we should understand if we want our future and successive generations to care about in the same way. Well, we have to lead by example. And like I say, I'm very thankful to see that people like Kelly are willing to step up the table and lead by that example. Hey, what happened there, Kelly? Looks like you froze on me there, buddy. Wait, something happened with Kelly here. Let me scroll up here a little bit. No, it wouldn't have nothing to do with that. Canada Constitution rule. Don't tell me we lost Kelly. I hope not. Spy patriot. Our troops should not be deployed, stand in armies, the corporate. Yeah, I agree, spy patriot. Of course, they should not be to defend big business, right? If your population is paid, yeah, what's the point in defending your borders if your population is reported? Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense based on that scenario, for sure. I'm with PPC under particular Mad Max. In particular, Mad Max understand the federal rule. Geez, I wonder what happened to Kelly. Let me scroll to no, it's frozen on this side too. Well, hopefully Kelly will be able to get back in the conversation. But in the interim, in the meantime, right on Rebel. Hey, is Rebel in the chat? Oh, wait. Hey, let's see if Kelly is here. Oh, you still there, Kelly? Not yet. Okay. Oh, let me go back to... Hey, by the way, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, folks. I would really appreciate if you would, actually. I need your help, folks. I really do. Oh, here we go. I think Kelly's back. Oh, close. Anyways, get back to the comments. Okay, I'm going to scroll down through these comments quick here, folks. I'm with Max. That's nice to hear. Tom Mobberly. We got that, and the problem is they pander to groups. It's ridiculous that Canada was the host country for multiculturalism. Now we are a minority. It's messed up. Elizabeth May's son. Hey, what's going on, Leo? Parents nowadays don't teach kids to be independent. They want them to be dependent on. Yeah, that's so true, right? Yeah, why teach them to be responsible when you teach them to be dependent? So hold on, let me bring Kelly into the chat. There we go, buddy. What happened, man?
I have no idea. It just dropped off.
Oh, really?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. It just
there we go.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Okay, well, you go ahead. Dive right in, buddy.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was watching some of the questions here, and doesn't seem like there's a whole lot. 44 vets in the PPC. Yeah, absolutely. We have a very strong representation of veterans with the People's Party, which is awesome. And a lot of them are quite proud of. Actually, all of them are quite proud of the platform that we've come up with.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to co-write this with Andy Brooke out of Kingston area, who's a retired RCMP assaulter. For us, that was awesome. I would love to be able to get more media attention with regards to that platform. I'd love to get our veterans more help because they need the help. Get them off the street. Let's streamline things with Veterans Affairs. And just see what we can do for veterans.
Yeah. Well, that's where, like I say, I'll even say this to the people in the audience once again. And I know it's an unfortunate thing. The government already takes and redistributes a lot of income that you feel that, well, I've already done my part, right? Which, maybe you have by natural extension, by there's someone taking a portion. But you know what? If you step up, if there's anything, especially if you're in a position to help, right? If your economic bottom line isn't going to be hampered or harmed by helping out some of the veterans, then like I say, you by natural extension, if you do that, if you take that personal responsibility to help those veterans voluntarily, then we don't need big government. So to me, it's if you're in a position economically to help people out that are desperate and in need, well, that's a way to, once again, you can do that in a voluntary means and help us reduce the size and scope of government. That is the best way to do it. So, when I see people that are in desperate need, I want to try to help them my way, rather than, like I say, rather than government taking my funds and figuring out what's the best way to do it. I'd rather be able to help them out in my way. And I think I have a much better understanding of these people because I was born, raised, and I grew up a lot of people and grown up in an area just outside of Fredericton, Gagetown being a close area. I got like my friends, and a lot of the people that grew up my whole life come from the military, and I got a lot of respect for those people, but they have the same concerns and aggravations that Kelly's point out is you're promised. Well, that's what these fucking dipshits in government do, right? They make all these promises, but really at the end of the day, how can they make these promises? They can't unless they're, once again, economically enslaving a whole lot of people to fund the promises that they make. And like I say, to me, if we can do these things in a proper manner, we're voluntarily engaging to support people that are defending. Just like if you're a business owner, you're going to want someone defend your business when you're no longer in those work hours, right? So you have these private security firms. Now today, like I say, it could be just the military that's a government entity, but help them and fund these people so then when it comes to the point, they don't have to turn to government initiatives. Because when just like I was reading an example as far as not just this isn't the military, but the First Nation people. So the government said that Ottawa, this was the headline of the article, and I just did a video today actually covering it. Actually, before I did this live stream with Kelly, I did this video today. The government is now going to pay the First Nations, a bunch of these children that went through, I don't know if it's the residential school, but one of these government initiative programs. And now the government is going to, because they failed these people, just like with the military, because they failed these people, now they're going to say Ottawa is going to bail these people out because past governments failed them, so Ottawa is going to come to the rescue. But it's not Ottawa that's going to rescue. Justin Trudeau ain't going to pull his fucking wallet out or his bank or his gold card or anything. He's not going to be billing. He's just going to force more and more of the taxpayers, or at this point, as far as the debt and deficit levels, he's going to force more of these people to pay into these government initiatives that we don't know, once again, how that's going to pay out. Let's help support the people that are desperate in need. Then there'll be a less desire for these central planning hacks to use these big government initiatives to try to redistribute our wealth. That, like I say, personal responsibility is going to be the way that we shrink the size and scope of government. But most people today, they feel disgruntled, they feel disenfranchised, and they say, I've already done enough. The government's already taken half my paycheck. So they don't want to step up the plate. Although I'm sure if they had that half of their paycheck left, they'd be more than willing to dole that out to help people that are desperate or in need. That's what I mean. The incentive structure has been greatly destroyed, where the people that really need our help aren't getting it. But the people that are the ones that are supposed to be the ones that are the arbiters, the distributor of that wealth, they're making it like bandits.
Well, you have to ask yourself, I mean, I'm following the chat here as you're talking.
Right.
Again, you have to ask yourself, why haven't you heard anything, according to the chat as well, about the liquid natural gas plant in BC?
Right.
Why haven't the Conservatives been screaming foul? Why the Conservatives haven't said anything? This is a $42 billion contract that was awarded to the Chinese firm.
Yep.
So what they're doing is they're building this liquid natural gas facility in China using Chinese steel.
Right.
And then they're prefabbing it and then bringing it over to Canada and then putting the plant together.
Yep.
Totally bypassing Canadian workers. Well, there's 130,000 workers. You said they need, they need to bring people in for there. I mean, oh my Lord.
I know.
the lack of common sense is just, and I understand. I'm trying to be politically correct here, which I shouldn't be, but at the end of the day, if I said what I needed to say, I'd be,
I'll do it on my channel. You don't need to here.
You could say exactly what I'm thinking, but it makes absolutely no sense at all. $42 billion to a country right now, that is holding 2 Canadian citizens essentially hostage.
Yep.
A federal government that has no backbone to get them out, but yet we're awarding them more money.
Yep.
And what are they trying to do? Buy these 2 Canadian citizens out?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and why? Sorry, the only way that I know how to put this is the Liberal government and the Conservative government, the opposition party, need to pull their heads out of their asses.
Yep.
And start looking after Canadian interests, and they're just not doing it.
Well,
they're just not doing it. I mean, these two citizens in China should be out of jail by now.
Yep.
They should be back in Canada. You're not looking after Canadian interests. Our foreign affairs has no spine. You have Andrew Scheer that's talking about how he's going to improve relations with China.
Yeah.
Which we clearly know isn't going to happen, because he can't even improve relations with the supply management people in Quebec, let alone another foreign government. You just need somebody like Max, unfortunately, or fortunately, that's going to step up and go, you know what, this is the way it's going to be, and take a firm stance with it. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, Canadians are the ones that are being impacted.
Yeah. Well, what saddens me the most is that a lot of Canadians, especially my peeps from out there in the oil patch, and like I say, a lot of us from the East Coast did end up be there. Matter of fact, I almost would have ended up been there because of what happened to me on the East Coast. But my wife being from Ontario, I said, okay, I'll just go back to the construction so she can be around her family. And I just went here instead of the oil. Mm-hmm. But the sad reality is a lot of these people and a lot of my family members are like, they're hoping, especially with the whole Keystone, I hope Trump can. We have to rely. How fucking sad is it as Canadians? We got to rely on the American president to help fucking Canadian jobs. What? We have not one representative, and even Kenny's been a bit of a fucking failure himself. I'll even say this right now, because he said that, well, that's the thing. As a conservative, you're supposed to be promoting the free market. And I get it. We don't function in the free market, so I get that you're not going to be able to play that game straight out. It's not going to be quite as easy. But he's basically falling through and carrying the same goddamn things as trying to restrict, oil production, because some of those big players in the oil field services are benefiting from curtailing the oil industry. But think about the small players. Once again, Kenny is still playing that game as he's picking winners or losing the economy. Whereas really you should just allow, because as a matter of fact, those young or those small players, the small caps or the medium cap players, those are the ones that are the hungriest. Matter of fact, they probably got some really amazing engineers in there that are chomping on the bit to figure out ways to extract our resources in a better manner, in a cheaper manner, so that we can get our products and resources to the global stage. The only thing that we require or rely on today, like I say, fortunately, is Trump and what the governor of Nebraska is the only people that's actually trying to help Canadians, extract their resources and get properly compensated for what all those hardworking men and women are doing out there in the oil field. Nobody's doing much as far as the provincial or the federal stage, as far as standing in defense of these people that, like I say, are the backbone and provide all that energy that the rest of us consume and take advantage of. So to me, it's a sad reality that it's someone that's from a completely different country that's actually promoting to help grow our oil and gas industry in this country. Well, that should never be the case. We should have a whole myriad of politicians from the West Coast to the East, because they all require energy to sustain the livelihood. So everyone, no matter who you are, you should be willing to support not just the oil and gas workers in Alberta, but anything you can do to provide for our society and for other people all around the world. Because once again, all those benefits that we attain, well, that's the thing. These lefties that say, oh, we got to help all these people. Well, you know what? The best way we can help people is by enriching ourselves. The more we enrich in ourselves, the more we have as far as disposable income to help all those people that you bleeding heart lefties constantly talk about. So stop tying our hands and feet behind our backs, and you'll see that we can actually help a whole lot more people. And that's been proven many times in the past. It's those people on the right are the most compassionate. The lefties, well, they're compassionate as far as taken from other people, but it's usually people from that right side of the political spectrum that have a religious background that have that compassion and that empathy for others. So, like I say, allow freedom to flourish, allow economic prosperity to flourish, and then you'll benefit all those people that the lefties truly fucking have that bleeding heart about. But they don't want, they want to have, what it is they want to take all, they want to be able to take the responsibility of that. They want all the praise, they want all the applause, and they don't want to allow anyone to have any ability to share and join with each other to share in that wealth or that prosperity if they don't have control of it. If they don't have control over it, the way they look at it is, oh, I don't care if there's any prosperity. So they're more than willing to screw over the poor people that they think they're trying to help, as long as they get to fuck over the people that they consider to be their political counterparts, right?
Right. And you know, I've said it on a number of occasions here. I've tweeted it out as well. I'm not entirely sure what game Mr. Kenney is playing here. You know, they've been in court a couple times. They've lost. He's thrown his support, in my opinion, misguidedly behind the Conservative Party of Canada and especially Andrew Scheer, when he needs to take a serious look at what the People's Party of Maxime Bernier has to offer when it comes to equalization and the pipeline. Right now, Max is the only leader that's actually talking about the issues. And if you're truly trying to get the Alberta oil back on the international market, you would think that your provincial leader would put the support behind the one that's actually saying what he's going to do.
Right.
I mean, Andrew Scheer has said in English one thing, and in Quebec said a completely other thing. So, typical of Andrew Scheer, you get nothing but word salad from him. Our oil industry has got one of the best records for the environment in the world, and it's a responsible oil. It's clean. We need to get it back to the international market. We need to get this stuff back to Tidewater. And like I said, I don't understand the game that Mr. Kenney is playing. Hopefully we see some sort of change in him, but I guess it just sort of falls in line with the Alberta and Saskatchewan Conservatives that a whole lot of talk and not a whole lot of action.
Yeah. No, Hunter, I'm just going through the I love this because I can click on all the chats and bring that right up there. I'm really liking StreamYard. It's great because even though I'm not actively engaging in dialogue with people in the chat, as long as I can highlight their comments, they know I'm at least paying attention. I'm a big fan of this StreamYard. Are you liking this program so far? It's pretty cool, right?
It looks good. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's a good little setup, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was looking at your comments here, and there was one comment there. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Andrew Scheer did sign on with the Paris Accord, which again makes it difficult to get this pipeline built. All of the Conservatives are on board with the Paris Accord. So how do you say that you're going to build a pipeline or get the pipeline built when you agree to the Paris Accord? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. No, I was going to reference this article or this comment from another gentleman, rebel in the FDG, immigration putting a strain on housing. That's another thing. And once again, this isn't anything to have to do with the particular individuals that are being brought to this country. But yes, if you don't have a market environment where, think about it, everything, it's all about supply and demand. If you don't understand supply and demand, then just you don't understand economics. So yes, if you don't have rampant growth, and because we're bringing into the tune of 350,000, right now it's like 310, 320, but still for the next 3 years, they're looking to ramp it up to about 350,000 per year. So if you're bringing 350,000 people to increase the population to the tune of 1.2 million over just a 3-year time frame, well, if your housing construction isn't at least keeping pace, bare minimum, right? Bare minimum, just keeping pace. Because anything below that level of keeping pace means that by sheer fact of law of supply and demand is the valuation, the speculative valuation, because more demand, less supply, Well, then now that's what you get. And so you have successive generations, even kids of my own. Like I know my kids that are in their 20s and responsible, working, providing for themselves. Even now, I would never suggest them to come to Toronto or to Vancouver and buy a home anywhere. Right? Well, to me, I'd be like,
I would.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Kelly.
I would suggest that your numbers are low, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You're looking at
because you got because you're talking about adding in the TFWs and all that, right?
Well, you got the illegal immigrants, then you have the UN Migration Pact, which is another 650,000.
Yeah.
So now we're looking at almost 1 million people per year.
Right.
And who's paying for that? We're setting these people that are coming to Canada to look to prosper. We're setting them up to fail.
Big time.
And when you set up any group of people to fail, that has an impact on your corrections, that has an impact on your law enforcement, that has an impact on everything.
Yep.
Not just housing, and it has a huge impact on your economy. Who's paying for all of this?
Right.
At the end of the day, it's I asked the question the other day, what's your interpretation of mass? I was outdoor knocking, and I had this fellow. He was an immigrant, so he automatically said that he wasn't allowed to vote, which I appreciated. But we still had the discussion. He mentioned the billboards, and he said, you guys had the billboards that said you're opposed to mass immigration. So I said to him, what's your interpretation of mass? Because your definition of mass is likely going to be different than mine.
Right.
So when he gave me his definition of mass, he says, well, I see mass immigration as about 150,000. I started, that you need, you can't vote, but obviously look at our platform, because that's exactly what we're talking about.
Yep.
It's not about what we're talking about when it comes to the immigration policy for the PPC. Is we're bringing in economic immigrants, people that can contribute to the country right away.
Yep.
Right, which is what we want. We're looking at about, I think it was about 82% or 84% economic immigrants, and the rest were immigrants that we could bring over and help them become a part of our country. Here we go again, common sense. When you're looking at the numbers, they don't match up. We've got people that are, and they're veterans. We got veterans on the street. We got people that are homeless. We've got First Nations people that, essentially live in squalor. We have First Nations people that don't have clean drinking water, and we want to bring more people. The logic of it just doesn't make any sense at all.
No. And like you were saying, well, I'm glad you brought up, because once again, you're showing care and compassion for these immigrants. And actually that perfectly aligns with a video I uploaded once again, probably about a week or two ago, where even the established media was reporting on the fact that now you're having a larger and larger portion of these immigrants come to this country that are winding up homeless. So they're like joining. How fucking insane is that? We already have the homeless vets, like you say, that are stuck on the side of the road, fucking have got no way to properly be able to be taken care of or to sustain themselves without, maybe freezing to death on the side of the street corner somewhere. But yet now we're bringing all these immigrants, and what is this the kind of multiculturalism or unity that these lefties are looking for? Is let's just all raise us down. We're all homeless together, because that's all they're seeing today is a lot of these immigrants are you're bringing them in so that they can join what are already homeless veterans. So now they're like, they can sit there and circle jerk or talk about the fact that how they've been all screwed over by government. As a matter of fact, that's the worst thing we could do to any of those people. I don't want the vets or even these immigrants. I don't want them.
Right.
The only thing that they are in common, the only thing they can say that, hey, we share something in common. If the only thing they can share in common is the fact that they're homeless because of government initiative, well, that's a failure on so many levels. I don't even want to start on that equation, right?
But that's what is a contributor to your addiction issues and increased addiction rates. You look at increased populations within corrections, federal corrections. Like, I'm not sure a lot of people are aware of. Are you aware of what it costs for one medium security inmate in a federal penitentiary is?
I have no idea. I'd like to hear that though.
One medium security federal inmate, male, is $150,000 a year. Okay, so it's I believe it's $175,000 for one maximum security inmate. Then if you take it over to the female portion of that, so one medium security female in Canada is upwards of $350,000 a year.
Wow, Jesus.
So we want to put more people in jail. We want to put them in jail for longer. And again, we're paying for that, you know. And even when you look at federal corrections, they can't sustain it. They don't have the room. That means more facilities need to be built. It does improve employment for correctional officers, but the thing is, where are you going to find those?
Right.
You know, the working as a correctional officer is stressful enough as it is. I mean, they have one of the highest rates of you know, PTSD and suicide within first responders. You know, I mean, if you think about it, correctional officers, police officers have to deal with murderers, psychopaths, pedophiles for a couple hours for the day, and I have nothing but respect for them. Federal correctional officers have to deal with them for their full sentence. Right. And these people don't care. So, you know, the answer isn't putting these people into jail for longer, and you know, the answer isn't putting these people into jail simply because. The answer, we need to look at, you know, proper solutions. Like I said before, we need to look into social programs. We need to help these people. But the more people that we have here, the harder the impact is on those social programs.
It is 100%.
You know, so I mean, 1 million people per year. Oh, it's just, it's insane.
It is, and I mean, as been pointed out by many other people that have covered this topic, is we're taking in more immigrants than anyone else on the entire planet, and that compares and includes the United States, which has a population 10 times of our own, basically. Well, we got 37 million in Canada today. They have 320 plus million in the US, and they're taking in less than what Canada is. So how can that possibly be sustainable? And how is that fair in any way? No matter how much of a compassionate, bleeding heart liberal you are, you know damn well that doesn't make sense to constantly put these kind of impositions on the Canadian people when it's not needed or necessary. To me, actually, matter of fact, and I've said this in the past too, if you care about these people, if you genuinely care about these people, and just look to the bubblegum narrative, right? The guy said, we can't fit 7 billion people in this country. Well, we might, but it wouldn't be a very comfortable place to live in, right? But I'm just saying, why don't we just help those people and teach them about free market economics and freedom in general so that they can sustain their livelihoods in their own country of origin? Because like I say, rather than having a couple tiny geographical areas that represents freedom, let's bring freedom to the masses all around the world, which means they don't have to congregate or come to our country. They can create and establish that kind of freedoms in their own places. And I'm sure they would like that. I'm sure their family members, their extended family members, I'm sure their kids and their grandkids would like to someday grow up in a place that cares about freedom as well, rather than constantly have to travel or traverse across thousands of miles, across big expansive oceans to find some semblance of freedom. Give them the freedom where they are, embolden them to stand for those freedoms in the countries where they are, and then we can create freedom that's much more semblance of what the globe requires, rather than, like I say, just creating this kind of trap where everyone feels like they got to come and congregate to this one area, which, trust me, the government, the big government initiatives aren't actually giving you the freedoms you hope. And a lot of these immigrants that come to this country realize that, hey, you told me a lot of shit, Trudeau. What's up with your tweet? You told me if I come here, I was going, and then you find out, well, no, there's no housing for you, right? You're living on the streets. You're under the government dole. Your life is being constantly manipulated, dictated, and controlled by the central planners. So now you're in the same position that a lot of Canadians are, and you're like, oh, I'm not happy with this scenario. Well, that's why, like I say, people should be listening to people such as Kelly or myself that are talking about what it means to be free, rather than, like I say, just playing this snake oil salesman tactic where you just, hey, come here. Look, I got something here for you, right? Don't fall for that bullshit. Like I say, whether you're an immigrant or whether you're a domestic Canadian, stop falling for that kind of nonsense, right?
Well, the questions that's not being asked here. We're having a ton of immigrants come in, and you know, like Max said, Canada is not the welfare state of the world. We can't afford to be. But at the end of the day, you know, when you take a serious look at it, when we're getting the population is growing and growing and growing, Canada one of the other jobs that Canada does for the world is we grow a lot of the food for the world. So if we're taking up all this space, where are we growing this food?
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, so I mean, nobody's asking that question. I mean, we have to take up farmland in order to build homes, and you know, the more farmland that we take up, the less food we can grow. You know, so you can't have it both ways. We either, you know, help the world by growing food, or we help the world by bringing the world here.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're not fixing the problem.
No.
You know.
I'm just curious, Kelly, because I had this Karen Dworkin put this post on here, and there was another one a little bit before that. But I'm just curious. I don't know if you know anything about this, but I haven't heard anything about this. But you know, people come up with all kinds of friggin' rhetoric. Bernier and Trudeau love China. That is why Bernier prefers to tweet about social issues and not the damn. Well, I never heard anything from Bernier defending China. I've heard Trudeau, but I've never heard anything from Bernier. Have you heard anything yourself?
You know what? The only thing that Max has tweeted about is the lack of accountability on Trudeau's part to be able to get our two citizens out of jail there. At this point right now, I mean, what's Max gonna say? He's gonna, you know, you're gonna be critical whether he does or he doesn't when it comes to China.
Right.
So at the end of the day, you know, equally, you're not hearing anything from Andrew Scheer. No, well, sorry. Let me rephrase that. You're hearing what Trudeau's not doing from Andrew Scheer, and you know, and how Trudeau is not as advertised. But I would equally say that, you know, Andrew Scheer is clearly not as advertised either, because it's all talk and no action. I mean, he's not giving you solutions. He's telling you what Trudeau's not doing, which Canadians already know.
Yeah. Well, according to AJ, apparently this Karen, she's a bit of a conservative shill. So.
Okay.
My AM sign off this because I'm not hearing this candidate. So it sounds like, yeah, she might be obviously a conservative supporter just trying to throw some cold water on the PPC. And I've seen that. Matter of fact, I got a couple of them. They just show up constantly on my Facebook page, and all they do is talk anti-PPC. And every time I respond, there's never a rebuttal. Never. So to me, that's either a shill or a troll. And those people, yeah, just ignore them. But don't, you know what I never do? I don't delete none of their stuff. Leave it up there. In fact, if people want to go off on ridiculous tangents, I'm going to leave that out there. Actually, the best thing, like I say, sunlight is the best disinfectant. And these people are doing the best job. Like I say, I could spend all day telling how ridiculous some of the conservatives sound, but the best thing I can do is just let them spew. Well, not all conservatives, folks. I'm talking to the ones that are supporting Andrew Scheer, the fake conservatives. But these people, the best thing we can do is not insult them, just let them spew the rhetoric. They shoot themselves in the foot enough on their own.
You know, at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. You know, I mean, I read all of the comments as well, or I try to, anyways, as many as I can. I don't, unlike the person that I'm running against, I don't block anybody. You know, I've made it very, very clear that actually everybody has that that's her second pastime is blocking people. She blocks a significant amount of people, especially in the riding, which I can't understand that. I know that she held an event last night where some people from the constituency went and were turned away by security because they, you know, you had, even though you had a ticket, if your name didn't, if you went for whatever reason, if your name didn't show up properly on their list, you were denied entry into her event. They're still constituents. You know, at the end of the day, there's still constituents that want to be heard or want to hear you, and you're turning them away. You're using your security. What are you hiding behind? Like, why? Exactly. You know, and that's the biggest thing for me when it comes to Michelle is that, you know, you keep blocking constituents. You keep talking about, you know, how you're fighting for the people, but when the people go to challenge you on that, you block them or you ignore them.
Yeah, no, it's the wrong approach. Like you say, my thing is, and some days I'll even admit I get frustrated by these people that just tend to want to troll. But at the end of the day, I leave it open so that people, at the very least, whether they just want to go and troll, at the very least, I'm going to leave it open. If you actually want to interact and engage with me, and I've offered this to people from all areas, from all backgrounds. Matter of fact, I keep hoping that one of these Antifa dipshits will accept my offer someday and come on my channel, because like I would probably be able to agree with them on so many levels in terms of how bad big government is. I think the area that would play after that or subsequent to that would be like, how do we remedy that situation? That's where our divide. That's where you'd see the big divide is. Yeah, it's easy to complain. That's simple. Anybody can complain, but are you offering any solutions? Well, I offer solution, and my solution is individual freedom, respecting each other's sovereignty, and those old values. And they sound old today, although they shouldn't be. They should be something that we should be carrying through. Matter of fact, that should be the kind of torch that we should be putting more and more, gas or lighter fluid on that and making that flame burn brighter, where we're saying it's so important today. And that's the thing, because we do live in this kind of multicultural global world. Actually, this is the time it's even more fundamentally important to respect each other's sovereignty, because, you know, it can get easy to get lost or caught up when you talk about 7 billion people participating in terms of politics on these social media realms. Well, you're not getting the entire 7 billion. So even if it's only half of it, but like I say, the only thing that's going to help us is if you're going to have anything that's going to have anything to do with giving people respect, is who's most consistent, who's most universal in their ethics and their morality and their principles. And to me, it's the ones that stand for individual freedom, not the ones that are playing the game of politics in terms of collective ideology, because that's a game of, once again, that's a race to the bottom where, you know, whether it's the Leafs or the Canadians, like, well, no, if they both suck, if they're both losing for long periods of time, maybe they're not the top of the game. Maybe they aren't leaders necessarily anymore. I know that's a sad, shocking reality for Canadians to hear, but listen, no, hold people that hold themselves to a higher standard. That is something that we should be trying to replicate. That's what the West did best, was to try to replicate that kind of success. Whether you're talking about social issues, economic issues, or philosophical issues, is let's try to raise and elevate each other. I don't want to race down to any low common denominator where we can feel comfortable, where we all agree with each other, but we're all smothering ourselves in a big pile of shit. Like that's, it's like, I don't want to have that kind of unity where we're all suffocating in a big pile of shit. Now, I want to, like I say, I've always said so many times, the West tries to raise and elevate people. So the people that are coming to this country, we're actually failing them. If you're one of those people that like, you care about immigrants that come in this country, okay, good for you. But the best thing you can do for the immigrants come to those country is make sure that they adopt those Western values, which is respect each other as a sovereign individual, promote free market fundamentals, give them the opportunity to strive for success or attain success based on their own fruition or what they bring to the table, and let them fail and succeed based on their own fruition, because that's the best way to learn. If they made mistakes in the past and they failed, well, the only way that's going to correct their habits and behavior is by not bailing them out, is by them recognize that what I did in the past, that was a failure. Let me try something else. But once again, if you keep bailing out the people that have shown that they failed, well, then you end up with nothing but a bunch of failures. And basically what you're looking at today, after 30, 40, 50, 60 years of rewarding the people that are incompetent and failures, well, now you have the people that are running this country are the ones that should never be close to that a level, because they've never attained any personal success in their life. They haven't really. I mean, if you look at Trudeau or Scheer or any of these people, what have they actually achieved in terms of personal success in their life? I don't know. I mean, I don't know them personally, but I don't think it's enough that they should be leaders. I don't think they have enough moral superiority, that's for sure, in comparison to contrast to me or Kelly. I don't think they've done a better job than anyone else. So in the free market of idea, let the success of those who have the ideas that are properly adoptive to people, rather than, like I say, the way government works now is you force people to align with your ideas. If you're forcing people to align with your ideas, that doesn't mean it's the best idea. It just means it's the only idea they're allowed to accept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, and it comes down to, like I said to you before, that cycle of abuse.
Yep.
Right. It's the people are voting, typically will vote for the lesser of the two evils.
Yep.
And when it's very, very simple, this election. You don't have to vote for the lesser of the two evils. You've got a third party there now that is very, very viable.
Yep.
We have the second most candidates in the country. You know, all these ridiculous arguments about Max not being elected as the leader. Well, you know what? Everybody joined this party because Max was the leader. But at the end of the day, we all support Max. All the supporters support Max. So that argument's irrelevant. And then when you look at and compare the platforms, again, with Scheer and Trudeau, you're getting almost the identical thing because both of them are following within the UN agenda.
Right.
Max is not. So, you follow, like I'm following the dialogue that's going on here as well. And then you look at the polls. People talk about the polls. What a garbage argument that is. When you're asking, well, which you're going to vote conservative, liberal, NDP or Green. Well, hold on a second here. If you're asking the right question, it's which conservative party are you going to vote for? Because there's two. There's the centrist left Conservative Party of Canada. They got the People's Party of Canada, which is more of a conservative party than the Conservative Party themselves. Then you have the other ones, right? So
yeah.
When you start asking the right questions, then you're going to see a difference in the polls. But you're also not accounting for a lot of the people that have never voted before taking an interest in this and now are voting.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we're finding, right? Especially when we're door knocking, we're talking to a lot of people. I talked to one lady the other day. She hadn't voted in 54 years.
Nice.
And she's now voting in this election, and she's supporting the PPC because, she believed in our values. So, I mean, when you're asking the right questions and you're actually comparing apples to apples when it comes to the platform, it should be very, very easy. And if you haven't seen the comparison chart, is on the internet. You can find the comparison chart between the platforms. I encourage people to educate themselves. Look for that comparison chart when it identifies.
Yep, I'm going to share that in the chat actually.
Yeah, because that comparison chart is huge. It gives the actual facts.
Yep.
So when you have the actual facts, it doesn't matter how critical you are or who you are or who you support. The facts are the facts.
Exactly.
So unless your party's willing to change their position on some of the things, they're not. You can't dispute that. And so, one of the, like I say, people need to inform themselves. Don't take my word for it. You just put the comparison chart on there. It's not biased in any way. It's just simply there are the facts. Inform yourself, and when you inform yourself, really the decisions, unless you really support a UN agenda, it really is easy.
Yep, I hear you. I was just sharing a link to that. So I'll put it here again now. So compare PPC. Definitely check that out. Because like I say, no matter if you're a fence sitter or anyone that's just even new to watching my show, or you're someone that's used to watching Kelly, like I say, if you just go check that out, you'll see that, come on, with you could do that in the comfort and the privacy of your own home without anyone bitching at you, in the right ear or the left ear. You can just sit there and compare the policy position. And tell me, if you're a Canadian citizen, come on, damn well that the party platform under the PPC, that is conducive with what you have been born to raise as far as what you are, what you recognize what the West represents as far as freedom and all. So this is the place to be. So don't play the game and don't get all tribal as far as like, oh, but I support the CPC my whole life and I hate those liberals. Hey, I get that. But like I say, there's a new game in town. You don't have to play this constantly flip-flopping or back and forth or the LibCom game. Like Kelly's saying, you no longer are stuck with this. I mean, my God, so many of us Canadians, and I'll say I'm even one of those people like the lady you were saying, 48 years or 58 years. Well, I'll say I've only voted twice in my adult life, and they were both in provincial elections, and they were based on single issue bullshit things. But I'll say, even myself, this will probably be my first election. I'm voting federally. And the reason why it's not like I was never informed, didn't know the politics, to me is I was disenfranchised with the whole system, with the whole structure, because I recognized early on, even though it wasn't necessarily as pronounced as it is today, but none of those people represented my values. They wanted to superficially pretend they did, but once you got down into the policy positions and heard the rhetoric they espoused when they were on a stage or talking on the media, no, these are people, once again, it seemed to me it was like what we're recognizing today is, oh, what's the what kind of opportunism can I offer people? What kind of carrot can I offer to the people to entice them to support me? Which once again is I stand on principles, I stand on values, I stand on ideas, right? And to me, it's not what you can offer me. I don't give a shit how many rewards you can offer me, because if you stole from this person and you're like, oh, I'll redistribute that and protect you in some way or give you a leg up over. No, all I want is, if you're supposed to be someone that's supposed to be part of the ruling class and be a representative of a government in this country, then you should be doing what's right, which is promoting the fundamental principles of liberty, which is what the West was built upon. Today, it's all about opportunism. But like Maxime and the PPC is saying, no, we don't have to play that game no more. And we're not in a fringe as much as, and I've said this in the past too, I'll even say there's a libertarian party in this country. I'm a libertarian. And I've said to Tim, and we've had this discussion, I wish the guy had more. I wish the media would cover more. I wish you had more of an actual foothold in the political process, but they don't. So as a pragmatist, as someone in Canada, realized that the only way that I can get out from underneath of this current structure, at least in a manner where we're not breaking down society, because that's the beautiful thing about the PPC under the leadership of Maxime Bernier, is we don't have to go through like a violent revolution or like put a whole bunch of public sector workers on the dole or living in the streets starving to death, because actually we only cause more harm. Is let's make a nice, smooth, slow transition, and along that process, try to get Canadian people up to speed in terms of the intellect, in terms of philosophy. And if we can do that, then maybe after 1, 2, 3 4 election processes and a couple generations, we can transition to that period and that time frame where we accept and adopt some of those very fundamental principles of individual liberty. But like I say, I want to do it. I don't want to do the let's just fuck it. Let's just, like, the Antifa fucks. Let's just tear everything down, man. Let's just burn it all down. Like, well, I don't want to do that. That's really weird, actually, because a lot of hard work went in to building up a lot of the structures that actually have been beneficial. Now, I'm not saying everything, but there's a lot of benefits that have been come to fruition because of the West that have done their own thing. So it's like, no, I don't want to burn to the ground. I want to try to transition ourselves. And you know what? The Max movement with the PPC and Kelly and all of us people that are supporting, we can transition. You don't have to be scared. You don't have to be shocked. We're not going to take away grandma's healthcare, right? You fucking idiots. Like the way that people talk, right? They get all like sensationalized as if when we talk about free markets, like we're just going to, no, not one of us. I've never met one person that's a supporter, a candidate, or a member of the PPC that's going to try to upend the apple cart and destroy a whole lot of people's ability to sustain themselves. But we do have to try to transition. And if you want to transition, well, hey, put it this way. If you don't choose to support the PPC today or in 2019 or in October here, well, you don't have to. Just like they didn't choose to support Ron Paul in the U.S. But what's the potential maybe in the future? Well, rather than Maxime Bernier and the PPC, the Canadian National Party or some party that's going to go even way further outside of anything remotely resembling trying to be reasonable in approach, is you might get something even worse. So take advantage of this opportunity that does not come along very often, folks. I'll tell you this, as someone that, like I said, 48 fucking years I've been waiting for this opportunity, and I want to take advantage of it. So please try our best. Like I say, don't want to upset the apple cart. We don't want to throw the vets on the street. We don't, even the public sector workers that I recognize that are just living off of I'm not trying to throw these people on the streets either. I'm just saying we got to slowly try to transition. And the PPC, under the leadership of Maxime Bernier, is that way where we can, like I say, turn this big old boat around and start heading back in the direction without rocking everyone off the side of the fucking boat, right?
Well, what we need to understand is if you really, like I said, information is power.
Yeah.
When you look at the Interparliamentary Union, okay, and you look at their constitution, it's very, very clear. The UN states it very, very clear. Chapter 3 of the Constitution says that any decision made by this governing body is binding. Right. It's no different than the seat on the UN Security Council. Any decision by this council is binding on the country that's sitting in that seat. And so at the end of the day, the members of the United Nations aren't elected officials from Canada.
Nope.
And we're allowing them to dictate what happens in Canada. That's why we have our own elections here. to say that this is who we want to represent us, and this is what we choose to follow. Now, again, like you said, information is power. Inform yourself. Look at all of the things that we've talked about. A lot of people are starting to do that. They're informing themselves. I'm hearing a lot of people that have, like I said before, never voted before, and now what Max has to offer is inspiring me to vote. It's wanting me to get involved. I was the same way, to be honest with you. If Max hadn't started this party, I literally have no room to complain but I couldn't commit myself to voting for somebody that I didn't believe in. And
you're a principled man, Kelly.
Well,
that's a good thing to hear, man. I want to hear that.
And that's the thing. I wasn't going to vote because I didn't believe in the lesser of the two. I didn't believe where they were taking us. I still don't believe where the Conservative Party is taking us. If people, like I said, if you don't believe me, educate yourself.
Yep.
I'm giving you the information.
Right.
I'm telling you where to look. The responsibility and the accountability comes on you to find that information. If you don't know where it is, ask. I mean, I'll answer those questions on Twitter or Facebook or even my own website if you don't know where to go and look for this information. And if you inform yourself, you can see it and you go, yeah, well, that makes sense, right?
Yep.
And then you have a better understanding. But at the end of the day, Max is bringing forward a platform, and it obviously resonates with Conservatives because Max ran on this exact same platform when he ran in the leadership convention. So it obviously makes sense.
Yeah. And he damn well, other than that the dairy cartel, right? That if it wasn't for that, damn well Maxime had that leadership race basically tied up, because I watched that whole night as it unfolded. Actually, this kind of shit that really pissed me off because I was totally anticipating, like, of course, on the last one, he won every goddamn vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right up to that point, and it's like, oh, really? Is this really how it's going to play out? Which I'm sure probably, kind of was a little bit soul crushing for yourself as it was for me. And like you say, that meant that half of all those people, those supporters of the CPC, they were on board with what Maxime stands for. So even when people say about the pollsters, right? Think about the whole Trump scenario or the Brexit scenario. These people, maybe a lot of them are like, I don't want to talk in my inner circles because I'll get my friends or my family members will pissed off. But like I say, that 49.5% of this Conservatives that right now might say, or when they're around their friends say, well, I'm going to support Scheer. Yeah, wait till they pull that curtain behind them in the booth, right?
Well, right? You got to look at the facts. Right? Well, exactly. I mean, you have to look at the facts. Yeah. Right now, Andrew Scheer has not broken 34% in any of the polls.
Right.
So he's not leading Trudeau in any way, shape, or form. No. Just like Stephen Harper couldn't beat Trudeau, and if Conservatives don't take a look at what is real, true Conservative values, Andrew Scheer's not going to beat Trudeau. With any luck, Trudeau will be in jail, and we won't have to worry about Trudeau. But at the end of the day, if people vote their values, at the very minimum, we'll have a minority government where Max and the PPC hold the balance of power, and we can hold the government accountable.
Right.
If Andrew Scheer was a betting man, then even tactically, you would change your tactics and encourage people to look at the People's Party, and say, at least at the very minimum, we're going to hold the balance of power.
Yeah.
As two conservative parties, well, one more centrist left and us, the conservative version of it. But at the end of the day, Scheer clearly doesn't have the following or the backbone or anything, or even he doesn't have a platform that says anything. that's going to defeat Trudeau.
Mm.
You take a look at his platform; it's all words. I mean, you look at some of the things that he said within it,
Yep.
or the interviews afterwards. Well, when we're talking about immigration, well, I'll let you know what those numbers are once we're elected.
Yeah.
When it comes to balancing the budget, well, at first it was 2 years. He was going to try and mimic Max, but at the end of the day, he changed it. Now it's 2 terms. It's just he's jumping all over the place trying to accommodate everybody, but he's saying a whole lot of everything, but a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, his credibility is going down. And at the end of the day, you need to look at the facts and look at the platform, and everybody, you shared the comparison chart. Look at the facts. That's all we can ask people. Yeah. Look at the facts and vote your values.
Yeah. Well, that's actually another thing that you do. Yeah, sorry, Kai. I just want to mention that's another thing when that Canadians are confused all the time is they hear about people that are leaders of a party. Well, what does it mean to be a leader? Once again, let's use the language that we use. Let's use it properly. I think that's the biggest failure with so many people is they don't understand the language properly because they've had it manipulated in the political sphere to the point where like up means down to them, black means white. It's so weird. But if you're going to be a leader, that means you have to lead. And when Scheer and we've heard this and we've seen basically almost admit this is they go by polling. So whatever a certain percentage of the populace deems as something that they want to clamor or cater to, then he'll just yield his principles to align with that. Well, that's not leadership, right? That's being led around by your fucking nose, man. That's not leadership. Could you imagine running a business in any capacity or being a leader in any capacity and every one of your subordinates, you just conform to whatever you say, right? And matter of fact, but as much as majority sounds good to people because like some people correlate numbers with like, oh, well, that must mean something. Well, actually, you know what? The majority of people are stupid compared to the intelligent people. That's just the reality. The majority of people will never be professional hockey players compared to the minority of hockey players that are professionals. The majority of people will never be structural engineers compared to the geniuses that have created all the bridges and the buildings. So it's always a fucking minority. Always a minority. Well, and usually it's an individual brain that has the competence. So if we, and you know what, the historical fathers and the founding figures understood, which is why government was limited. You're only allowed to vote historically under Western democracies on certain things. The fact that you're allowed to vote or allow majority or mob rule to dominate everything, well, we know the majority usually represents, the lowest percentage. It's like I said, to be the best of something, like this is shock and revelation to everyone that's going to watch this video today. But to be the best, to be the most competent means you're in the minority. It's always been that way. Well, it's always going to be that way. So if you allow the majority or majority opinion to dictate and control how you think about things, and once again, that's a race to the lowest common denominator. And that's never going to be anything that's going to achieve success, which is what the West was built upon.
Well, one of the great things about a leader, and I'll talk about Max about this in a bit here.
Right on.
A great leader listens to the people.
Right.
Okay. Max. I'm sorry.
But he also has to lead, right? You can't judge.
Oh yeah. No, exactly. But and the example that I'll use is Max is a great leader because he went to what I call subject matter experts when it came to our veterans platform. He let the veterans write that, and he, of course, approved it, and we went from there.
Right.
And then we talk about leadership. Well, our party has a leader. We have Maxime Bernier. Mm-hmm. I've also looked into the discussion here about a party whip. Well, the definition of a party whip is somebody who disciplines other party members for not following the direction of the leader.
Right.
We don't need a party whip because everybody already supports Max and everything that he has to say, the platform and everything. So, that's what makes this party great is because.
Can I just say though, Kelly, this is why I think, and this is the most important thing that we should talk about. This is actually perfectly correlates what I was suggesting is, so it shouldn't be about Maxime and the leader. But that's the thing. If we're going to play politics, there's going to be a leader. But what I love about Maxime and the People's Party of Canada is if you build the foundation of your political platform based on ideas, right? It's not about Maxime. Maxime didn't invent or create the ideas of liberty, right? He's a late adopter. like myself. So if you're not making about, but that's the thing, politics, that's the thing. I'm just trying to reflect the sentiment of the typical population, right? So they leaders or leadership qualities. Well, if you're going to represent a leadership quality, then that quality has to represent something that is at least built on a fundamental aspect of liberty, which is what Maxime said. So to me, why I support Maxime is not because of Maxime. It's not because of the shirt he wears, the suit he wears, or the way he does his hair. It's the ideas that he represents and he holds dear. That's
right.
To me. So I'm trying to get us away from that leadership thing where we just got to conform. But those that do want to play that leadership thing, well, then if you care about leadership, then allow the people to lead. But that's the thing. They don't want to. That's why I'm saying it's a contradiction. They always talk about, well, they need leaders, but then they want democracy. Well, democracy isn't about leadership. Democracy is about allowing the majority of the mob to rule. Well, then you, like I say, you have to figure out a way to square that round peg. Either you want leadership or you want the majority to rule. You can't have both. It's never going to work. Either you want leadership, like I say, in a business, you can either have everybody vote on, right? Hey, we got an assembly line. We got to build a car today. Do we allow everybody to vote on how the assembly line works, or do we allow the people that are supposed to show leadership qualities, right, to be the ultimate arbiters? You wouldn't be able to function. Try it. Try setting up a business sometime where every time you want to make something work is you got to ask every one of your employees to agree with, how the assembly line should work. Right? Let me see how well your business works. It's not going to work.
Right. And I would suggest that the quality of a great leader is to attract other great leaders.
Right.
Okay. So Max, and that's one of the things Max has done. He's attracted to the party other very good or great leaders. Dr. David Haskell, Salim Mansour, a lot of people that have a lot of great knowledge in their different fields and have an awful lot to bring to the table.
Well, right? I would say, though, David's not necessarily a leader. I don't know about the other one that you mentioned, but I will say David as an educator, he's not a leader. He's an educator. And that is why we need more educators than we need leaders.
That's fair. So, I mean, there's a lot of people that bring an awful lot of good things to the table.
Right.
Laura Lynn is, she's a leader when it comes to the pro-life. She's an advocate for the unborn. You have a lot of other people that are bringing an awful lot to the table that can contribute. You have Nadine Wallwood, again, a great leader. You got JD out of Ontario. So there's a lot of people who can contribute. My co-writer for the Veterans Platform, Andy. He out in Kingston. He's another great leader. So great leaders will attract other leaders and people that can learn from him. So, and that's one of the reasons why I'm a part of this party.
Right.
I believe in Max. I can learn from Max. I believe in the platform. I believe in the message that we're trying to get out there.
Yep.
I believe in family. I believe in putting family first. I believe in all of these things, and like I said, it comes down to it's a simple thing. It comes down to educating yourself, understanding where the direction is going for this country, understanding who's taking us in that direction, and it comes down to what am I as a voter willing to do to change that direction. We need to right the ship. Right. And at this point right now, our ship is taking on water as a country, and we need to right that ship. And the easiest way to do that is inform yourself. Look at the platforms, compare. If it's something that you don't understand, get the information. You said yourself earlier that this is the information. The internet is the information highway. Research the International Parliamentary Union. Understand that, right? Get out to see Max. If you have an opportunity. I know Max is touring the country here. I'm not entirely sure when he's starting, but I do know that he is in Calgary coming up here on the 26th of September.
Yep.
We're going, go to my website. My website is going to have all of the details of Max's visit here in Calgary. With any luck, I'm going to get this all to all the candidates here in Calgary.
I'm going to share your website to the chat there. What is your website, Kelly? Just so I can share it in the chat.
It's ppccalgarynosehill.com.
PPC Calgary Nosehill.com. All right, because I definitely want to get that up there because, like I say, that's going to help a lot. There we go. Perfect. Great job.
Yeah. So I mean, the more people that we have out to these events to hear Max
that
speak,
so I can share it a few other times in the future. Thanks for letting me know about that. I didn't even know. Sorry about that, man.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Okay.
The more people that we hear Max speak, understand the message, and I had the opportunity to spend almost a week with Max here in July when he was in Calgary, and wow. I sat down with Max at one of the events, and a farmer had asked to speak to Max personally, so I brought him over to Max, and we were talking, and they were talking about supply management, and honestly, I don't think I've ever heard a politician say to anybody, well, I guess you can't vote for me because I'm not going against my platform and my values. I was floored. And, right from that point on, I was like, I've got this guy's back.
Yeah.
I mean, I had it before, but that just reinforced the fact that, I'm not willing to trade Canadians' values for a vote. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear simply to get your vote. I'm going to tell you what we believe in, and you're either on board or you're not.
Yeah, and that's what I love about all you PPC candidates is because you're standing for the ideas, and I love it. And because and I've heard other people kind of reference that way. I like it. That's a great way to think about things. Is we're the modern blockchain in Canada in terms of politics. We're decentralized, folks. We're about ideas. The only thing that's central as far as what we care about is the ideas. We're very strong characters and figures. That's why nobody's going to wrangle us up. And people have said so many times in the past, in particular to libertarians, but I would even expand that out to some conservatives such as Kelly here, or even some of the classical liberals. It's like trying to herd cats, right? Yeah, good luck with that. We don't function in the realm where we just conform ourselves to everyone else or sacrifice our own sovereignty or our own thoughts just to get along, to go along. No, we care about principles. We care about ideas, and ideas and principles are what we hold most dear to our heart, mind, and soul. And that's what inspires and emboldens people to step up to plate, which is why I'm so glad to hear Kelly talk about this stuff, because the only reason why I'm feeling secure today, like I say, I'm not a fan of supporting politicians of any stripe, but the reason why I'm feeling secure today and why I've delved into not just be a founding member of the PPC, but why I'm willing to support all these candidates, even though I know that, we're not going to be able to do everything perfect, folks. Listen, we live in a world we're all fallible, we're all imperfect human beings. But at the very least, like I said early on when we were talking about this stuff, is we're in that general path. We're all willing to walk in that general direction. And to me, it's like, like I say, Kelly might, I've said this in the past too, Kelly at some point in time while we're traveling down that path of individual liberty, Kelly might decide, if there's 10 stops to ultimate liberty, Kelly might be happy to get off at stop 8. I'd be like, thanks, Kelly. Thanks for being a fellow traveler. Thanks for holding my back and watching my 6, right? Whatever you can do, as long as you're a fellow traveler and you care about freedom and liberty, which is what the West represented, then like I say, we don't have to agree with everyone and everything. Actually, the rules of engagement was already set out a couple hundred years ago, folks, is let's just stop using force and violence and manipulating each other. Let's stand on ideals. And like I say, that's what's created the West. That's what's created so much prosperous positions for people like Kelly and myself. That's why we've managed to strive and attain a certain amount of success, is because we stood on those ideas and the shoulders of geniuses that come before us, or all those amazing people or characters or figures, whether you're talking about World War I or World War II, all those people that went and fought and died. And they didn't do it just because, think about it, these people had family. A lot of them had children, or they were children themselves. Some of them were only 18, 19 years old, but they felt so emboldened and they cared so much to defend the freedoms for their family members or for their extended family or for the unborn, they were willing to sacrifice the greatest thing that they had in their possession, which was their life. They were willing to give that up to defend those freedoms. So by sheer fact that I even feel like just by the fact that I'm sitting behind a microphone rather than, no, but I don't even feel like I've stepped up the plate nearly as much as those folks did, but I'm willing to step up the plate in any manner that I can today, because we're not in a global conflict currently, and I don't hope we ever get to that point. So we should take advantage of the fact that we can use microphones, we can use our voice, we can use our intellect, we can use our morality, we can pleas of compassion and say, let's stop this bullshit. Let's get ourselves on a good path. And whether we agree with everyone, let's just butt it up long enough that we can walk in unity with each other, arm to arm, shoulder to shoulder. And like I say, I don't care where you want to get off the train in terms of liberty, but let's at least try to strive to attain some semblance of liberty, because we're not going to be any good divided or distracted with this kind of political division that basically pits us against each other. That's not going to be any good for any one of us, no matter who wins. Like on either side of that equation, that's like a nuclear war. No matter who fucking lobs the first one, you're all fucked at the end of the day. I don't want to go down that road. I'm sure Kelly doesn't want to go down that road. And that's why all of us have chosen to step up and step outside. I know it's out of my comfort zone. It's completely out of my comfort zone to support a political party, but I'm willing to step outside my comfort zone, because the most important thing to me is to make sure that my kids and future generations and all the people that I care about have at least some semblance of ability to have some freedom going off in the future. Whatever I can bring to the table, or make that be a fruition or come to be a reality in the future, I'm willing to do it. And I'm sure is willing to do the same thing.
Yep, absolutely. And you know what? I know we've talked about an awful lot today.
Yeah.
All I can ask is, I could talk for hours more.
Right on, buddy.
But at the end of the day, all I ask is that people get informed. If you don't have the information, it's out there. Yep. I'm willing to supply it to you, or you're willing to supply it to everybody. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, get informed. Get involved. If you have time to volunteer. Yep. At the end of the day, if you're informed and you vote your values and you actually do get out and vote, because I encourage everybody to do that, then you have no room to complain, because you've done what is your right to do.
Right.
At the end of the day, the stars of this election are not the people running for the office. The stars of this election are the voters.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, the people who get to choose what happens to this country are the voters.
Right.
And that will be respected. Obviously, either way, you're not going to please everybody, but all I can say is be one of the stars.
Yeah. Well said, Kelly. And like I say, I hope the Canadian population, I think most of them are chummed to the bit, and I think they will come around. Like I say, once that curtain's pulled across, I think we're going to see, I think a lot of the people in the ruling establishment and the media class are going to be, quite surprised to see that, this couple percent support, or 1.4% support that they've been trying to allude to for so long. Yeah. That's not a reflection of reality. So don't let the media pundits or the political class, disenfranchise you or pretend that, there's no point in me showing up to support the PPC, because they're never, listen, you'll never know until you try. Just take the opportunity. Just dip your foot in the water, folks. Even if, like I say, even if you don't care too much about politics, if you care about liberty, just try it. Just try it one time. If it turns out that it didn't work out, maybe you can learn to correct your habits or behaviors after that. But at least give liberty a chance. Because I guarantee this is one, like I said earlier on when I was talking, this is one of the very few opportunities, as someone that's, like I said, been alive in this country for 48 years, this is one of the very few opportunities that are being afforded to us where we can kind of pivot towards, respecting each other's freedoms, where we don't have to upset the apple cart. And that's the best way for me. As much as I'm a libertarian and people say, oh, you just want to burn everything. No, I don't. I want to educate people. I want to inform people, but I definitely don't want to burn anything to the ground. I want to transition as smooth as manner, because I'm all about, that's the other thing about a libertarian. I'm all about the non-aggression principle. I don't want to cause harm to anyone needlessly, but I definitely want to make individual liberty a priority in candy, because I want to carry that torch that a lot of people in the past, picked up and carried that mantle and lit the way for so many people before us. If I can at least carry that torch in any way, and I'm sure Kelly wants to do the same thing, that's the best. Then when I do reach those final days, and that when it's my sunset years, well, I'll be able to rest my head in peace, knowing that I at least tried and strived to bring what a lot of people did before me. I'm going to do what I can do and Kelly's going to do. And hopefully our younger generations will carry that forward and do it for the next generation as well.
Perfect. Couldn't have said it better.
Right on, Kelly. All right, thanks, buddy. And I'm sorry, I know I go on these stupid things sometimes. I'm not trying to grandstand, but I'm a very passionate person about these things. But thank you.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right on. Sorry. But yeah, but thank you for coming on the channel. And if you ever, like I say, anytime you ever want to get any information out there, I'm always just in a short notice. I do kind of get a little bit like a week or so, but give me a week in notice and I'll make sure, even if I can do it in the middle of the week, I'll give you the opportunity to say what you got to say. If Kelly or not Kelly, Michelle's out there trying to, take you down, I'll give you the platform to speak back to her.
All I have to say is look for, we're going to probably, without any luck, make an announcement here on the 26th.
Awesome.
On some accountability here.
Right.
So look for that. And then I hope to see everybody out to visit Max here on the 26th.
Yep.
And I look forward to everybody supporting the candidates in their area, and anybody that wants to volunteer for my team. We have a great time. Sign up because the lawn signs are here, the big signs are ready to go, and we're ready to rock.
Right on. Get out there, folks. If you're in Kelly's ride, get out there and help the man, because one man can't do everything. He can be a leader, but you need a whole lot of people to help in that way. So help the man out. Get out there. Right. Whether it's helping on social media or going in there, putting lawn signs, knocking door to door, whatever you can do. Because once again, it's not that you're just helping Kelly, you're helping yourself as well. And you have an invested interest in your future. So do the right thing. Help yourself, help Kelly, and help all of us who are supporting the PPC. And let us be a force to be reckoned with in October, so we can send a really clear and concise message to the establishment and the ruling class that, we're not going anywhere.
Perfect.
Have a good one, Kelly.
You too, sir.
Take it easy, buddy.
Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. I really enjoyed that chat with Kelly. Like I say, he seems like a real good man. I'm always happy to hear from supporters and candidates of the PPC, because I see that these people are doing their best and they are a representative that I can get behind. Because for me, like I say, to delve into politics, it's not easy for me. But to know that these people really do care about our individual rights and freedoms, that's important for me. But I just want to let you know before I tie this stream up here, because I got another one tomorrow. 4 streams in a row here. I didn't even have this planned, but before I end up having to move, because I am going to end up having to move, and I'll probably have a shittier internet connection, so I might not be able to do as many live streams, which is really going to suck for me because I really enjoy doing them. But either way, until that time comes, I'm going to do my best. And my wife's been really patient with me. I'm going to put forth as many uploads in terms of streams and put as many people out there and just let you know what's coming up so far. So tomorrow, another excellent PPC candidate. I like this young man. I really, really do. I've been following him for a long time. He's been following my channel as well. And I got to tell you, he did an interview with Global News, and he did his own little speech. I'll post a link to them when I do my stream with them. His name is Matthew Southall, and he's a PPC candidate out of Nova Scotia. And let me tell you, this young man, another excellent voice and spokesman for liberty, and has that libertarian leaning and that background where he's willing to stand in defense of individual liberty. And like I say, so articulate. Like I say, wait till you see this video. Listen to how this man represents himself. And he's a young man. But you listen to how well this young man articulates his message and represents himself. And tell me if this man doesn't represent the future of liberty in this country. I tell you, I believe that wholeheartedly. And like I said, got a lot of respect for this young man. So that's going to be tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be, like I say, me and Matthew Southall, PPC candidate for Nova Scotia. I'll get his right, and that'll be uploaded in the stream. And also, I'm trying to reach out to the Raging Humanist. I want to have a conversation with him. Funny guy, that guy. I love him and Derek have had some great chats. And, or maybe I've gone back too far here. There was someone, I thought there was one more. Just one sec here, folks. I thought I had one more here. Oh, okay, yes, right. Oh, and then we got Matt Sands. So he's a friend of Victor Pross. If you remember, it was Victor Pross versus Brandon Cropper. Yeah, I went on a little tangent against Brandon. Fucking guy. Don't play games with me. Like, if you're going to come at me, you better be honest in your approach. Don't pretend that you're an objectivist, which this guy tried to do, and then like try to pretend that you're a statist. No, I'm not going to allow you to bull that shit. But anyways, subsequent to that, Matt Sands reached out to me. He wants to have a conversation. What was it in regards? I'll put all this information when we get to it, but that'll be, it must be next weekend, right? Yeah, next weekend. So next Sunday, September 15th at 3 p.m. Eastern time, me and Matt Sands are going to have a conversation. Like I say, I'll put, I probably should have it written right down here. I'll put the premise of our conversation. I'll put that in the description when I upload that to my social media pages. And yeah, I guess that's it for now. So Matt Sands, and tomorrow, like I say, Matthew, a lot of Matts these days, huh? Matthew Southall tomorrow. But like I said, I'm looking forward to engaging and having some dialogue with both these gentlemen. And the first one, Matt Southall, like I say, you're gonna be impressed with this young man, I assure you. And if you're a Nova Scotian resident in his particular riding, I want to see you out there to support this man, and maybe even stepping up to volunteer and helping get his message out there. Anyways, thanks for everyone that joined this chat today and the stream. I really appreciate you all. And that's another thing too. I'm going to do another stream here soon where it's just between me and you in the chat. Nobody else to distract me from engaging in those new chat, because I really appreciate having you all folks that do show up to watch my streams. And I'm never going to forget about you. I'll always keep you front and center. And I'm glad that I can do this stuff today and put you up there on the screen like this. So everyone have a great day. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you tomorrow. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.